Good evening. Welcome to Athens City Council. Well, I guess we will. There we are. Tonight is Monday, June 6, 2011. This evening, City Council at 7:30 will be meeting in regular session, but first we are going to have a public hearing regarding the sweepstakes Internet Cafe business use change. Member Fall. I suppose you would be speaking to this, son.
I guess I can.
Or we could let the mayor. Who would like to speak first?
Well, this was a recommendation from the Planning Commission about changing the sweepstakes Internet Cafe, actually introducing it into the zoning code. As per rules, we have to have a public hearing about it. So we did introduce it in committee, and we have introduced it as first reading last week. Is there any concerns or questions from the mayor?
I could always add a few things. It is part of the zoning code, 230407, under B3 general business. It has a definition of what internet cafes are, or sweepstake cafes. And again, these are, I guess, since I haven't been in one, a semi-gambling establishment, although it doesn't fall under casinos or anything of that nature, because it's considered sweepstakes. Some of the requirements we put in there is that it can't be within it has to be in a B3. Shall only be located in a B3 plan unit development or M zone. I believe they're talking about a commercial plan unit development. And let's see, let's see.
It has requirements for distance from schools.
Yeah, about 1,000 feet from
Churches.
residential district, private schools, public parks, libraries.
Landmarks.
And, yeah, and
Churches.
historic district, 500 feet, I think, for the, 500 feet from any other internet cafe. And you have, of course, a mirrored legislation in Title 11, I think.
Right.
Chapter 11,
Which-
Business Code.
Yes, I sent that out to, via email, because it's about 15 pages long, to Paul Logue, sent it out for perusal, and we will bring that up in late July or
Start rolling, yeah. Okay.
so. Is there any other comment from council?
I've never heard of these things. When I think Internet Cafe, I think of like a
Where you go and use?
cappuccino, and
Yes.
you can have free Internet access. What are these businesses?
The closest one is actually, I believe, in Gloucester, I'm told. There's some, quite a few in Parkersburg as well, and you're seeing them actually spring up over in northern Ohio areas. Essentially, they're usually storefronts that have no use or are, empty. The way I'm told is that they're filling in, they fall through the cracks because they're considered sweepstakes. What you're doing is you're buying time on the computer and you're playing your chances or odds, I guess, or something like that. But there is a prize somewhere in there because it's like a sweepstakes. In theory, there's no charge with it because it is, but the fact is you're buying the computer time. And in theory, it is supposed to be an internet cafe, but really supposedly access to the World Wide Web is limited just to casino, to the gambling part. The state may actually go through, they're looking at it in terms of their legislation and what it means, because it's falling through the cracks between your casino and a regular, bingo or sweepstakes. So they may actually come up with something that we'll have to modify in the future, but the idea is to get this moving in place.
Right.
It was brought up...
That would probably affect more the business regulation
Yeah.
code than our zoning code.
Mhm.
So it is something, it's odd. That's what I thought, because in like Southeast Asia, it's, where you can go and use the computer to access the internet. And that's,
Most of the ones that I've seen in the Parkersburg area and other areas have very strange hours too. They're like from 11 o'clock to 3 in the morning, something like that.
yes.
Very strange. So it's bringing traffic to an area at very
Odd hours. Yeah.
odd hours, which would be difficult in a residential area or adjacent to residential area.
Well, and obviously no tax money being generated from this. Usually government's involvement in gambling issues has to do with making sure they get their cut of the action.
Right. Well, and since they fall through the cracks right now, that's a question.
Yeah.
So, is there any comments from the public?
Please.
You have to, can you come up? We have to hear you through the speakers. You
You can come and sit down here if you wish.
There are microphones there, that'll be easier.
Yes.
And just state your
Or you
name
can
and
stand up
where
at
you
the podium,
live.
your choice. Okay.
And then we have a sign-up sheet.
Yes, already, she's always signed.
Okay, thank you.
So I have to state my name.
And where you live.
I'm Emily Mattern. I currently live in Athens because I'm a student of Ohio University. And my question is, obviously there are some internet cafes that are just there for the purposes of accessing the internet for people who might not have the services at home. So how would you distinguish between, what is just an internet cafe, just providing an internet service, and those participating in the sweepstakes/gambling? Like, how would you regulate that?
I think,
It's within the definition that
okay,
was
yeah,
put
the
forward.
definition here, here's probably a copy of it. I wonder if I have an extra copy of that. The definition that we have in place right now, let's see if I have a, okay, add to zoning code definition 231001. There's basically two different pieces to this. One is sweepstakes/internet cafe, any premise which has a computerized sweepstakes device located for use of entertainment, for use or entertainment of public, whether such premises have other purposes whatsoever. Now, it really falls onto the next previous definition,
Okay.
which is computerized sweepstake device. Any computer, machine, game, or apparatus which, upon insertion of a coin, token, access number, magnetic card, or similar object, or upon payment of anything of value, whereas the product or service provided, and may be operated by public, generally to use in a contest of skill, entertainment, or amusement, whether or not registering a score, and which is not gambling under state and local laws. Machine has been designated by the State Lottery Commission as not computerized sweepstakes devices for this chapter. So in other words, it falls in between, and this is one of the loopholes that's occurring here. I think there wouldn't be a question of it in somebody saying, I'm going to go on and play Angry Birds or Frogs, something like that. But the fact is, you don't win money from those.
Right.
Okay, so that's probably where the cutoff would be, I suspect, once you start talking about winning a contest. And again, I don't know, we probably have to look at it when it comes at us at this point. Right now, if you look at the trend now is that we don't need internet cafes because almost all services, or many restaurants in town actually offer Wi-Fi as
Okay.
an amenity. So you don't really need to have that, the presence of a computer. In fact, most people don't really want computers. They want their own laptops and Palm Pilots, et cetera,
Right.
iPads.
Okay.
Question?
So would the zoning restrictions affect all internet cafes, or like regardless of whether they're offering these sweepstakes or not?
They would probably not affect it until they put the gaming aspect in.
Until like you notice that these kind of
They're
activities were
running-
being...
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I think there's a behavior change. As Member Sands talked about, that they're usually later hours or a different clientele than just somebody having a cappuccino and doing their email.
Usually these internet cafes don't have food, and if they have food, they're usually, from what I understand from people who've gone to the ones in Parkersburg, bags of chips and cans of Coke. So it's not a cafe. It's
Right.
just what they are calling themselves. So, I think it's kind of, you see it and you know it. You know what's, so, and it's a money-making, it's a money-making venture. Not like a non-for-profit, which the library providing internet, or, so AceNet providing internet or something.
So it would probably operate on like a case-by-case basis, like this guy's okay, he's just offering the
Well,
internet.
that's one of the things with the business regulations.
Okay.
When people open up new businesses, this will be licensed and such.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, this is just the zoning side of it, which requires a public hearing. The other side is the business section, which actually defines a little bit of the hours and circumstances, what you can use or not use. Again, it will actually end up, the first time somebody tries establishing one, we'll have a test case, I suspect. And again, the trend these days is not, the idea of having banks of computers, most people don't deal with that anymore. I mean, if you look in, public libraries have banks of computers. If they start doing internet, sweepstakes, I guess we'd have some problems here. But at the same time, the trend these days is that most people don't use other people's computers in a public setting. They usually bring their own. And as I say, they're shrinking all the time, so they wander in with, with minimal stuff at this point.
Okay.
The technology will probably pass it. Again, this is something trying to adjust to the changing technology, what's going on. And we're trying to adjust it because it hasn't gone into the state level, but the state is looking at it at this point.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for asking questions.
Any other comments?
We have 18 more minutes. Come on, more comments.
No, we can close the public hearing.
Seeing no other comments, maybe somebody's coming in wishing to make a comment.
Sarah.
Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
We're still having a public hearing on internet cafes. Do you wish to add anything? Ask any questions?
We're looking for comments, Sarah.
I have questions about the business side, but should not wait until...
Yes,
later.
this is about the zoning.
Yes.
So, you can get a copy of the
I'm gonna ask
example
you-
business ordinance from, not an ordinance, but the, I guess,
Draft ordinance.
draft notes from
Proposed.
Debbie. So, okay. Seeing none?
Seeing none, and having thoroughly covered the item before the public hearing, we stand adjourned until 7:30 and a regular meeting of City Council. Athens City Council, it is Monday, June 6th, June 6th, 2011. Again, City Council is meeting in a regular session. We do have a quorum with 6 of 7 members present. Next item on our agenda is disposition of minutes, and we have before us minutes from the regular sessions held on May 2nd and May 16th. Do I have a motion to accept?
I motion to accept the minutes.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes have been accepted. Under communications, one thing that I am in receipt of is a request for a liquor permit change that will take Stevens Fine Dining Restaurant at 66 North Court Street to allow it to serve alcohol until 2:30 in the morning from 1:30. That will be in the clerk's office, and if anyone wishes to request a hearing, that's who you would need to contact. Are there any other communications anyone wishes to share? Mayor Weil.
A couple of communications. One is there's going to be a public hearing next week, the 13th here, for the CDBG formula money grant. This will be the first of the two. The rumor is that it'll be less money than normal, but I don't know what that means exactly. We're usually running about 90 to 100,000 on the top end and 70 at the bottom end. So that's going to happen, I assume 7 o'clock or earlier for the meeting, for the public hearing. The next meeting I want to tell you about is the gas line replacement. This is Columbia Gas is replacing a series of pipes, I think 17,000 feet of gas line on the east side of town. They've sent notices out, I believe, to various owners. They're going to have a public hearing, which will be June 22nd at the community center. I believe that's at 6 to 7. And this is to inform the public of what's going on. They essentially will be tearing up major portions of the streets. Some of the streets, of course, I think, I'm aware that Nina is aware of this, I believe, the near Northside Neighborhood Association, but it will cover everything from Hudson, Lorraine, Ohio, Montrose, McGuffrey, Elmwood, Wallace, Otis, East State, Merkel, Shannon Drive, Sunnyside, Arden, North May, Verona, Watt, Morris, South May, Woodside. I think that covers most of it. So, bits and pieces of it.
This is where all the green lines on the streets are and everything. There's a lot of spray paint right now.
They're probably doing all the IPs for it so they don't hit any of our other precious water lines and sewer lines. Again, they say it's a $1.2 million project to replace the gas lines. I know we've heard already that this needs to be done. And as I say, for information's sake, they were looking for a venue. I think they approached the Northside Neighborhood, East Side Neighborhood Association, but if they're talking about almost 300 customers and even a tenth of them show up, there wouldn't be room at the easy room to park them at the music room in the East Elementary.
Right.
So they're going with the community center.
And will that be put on the website?
It should be on the website already, the maps, I believe, and the notice information.
I will have Nina put it out again.
Okay. And let's see, 2 other items, of course, the town hall meeting coming up the 28th of this month of June as well. That's the 6:30 meeting. Of course, this is our normal town hall meeting response to the questions that were posed in the January one. And the last piece of information I have, unless my service safety director wants to add more, is of course we're in the midst of move out. So either contact the recycling center at Ohio University or contact our code office at 592-3306 for any information in terms of recycling, reusing all the materials. They have a nice list of what can and can't be recycled, but the idea is to get it out of the landfill and into other people's hands. We've got quite a few organizations that are willing to help out too. Did I miss anything?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. So that's all I have.
Well, let's go on to reports and communications from other elected officials.
Oh, you asked me. Okay.
City Auditor Kathy Heck.
No report.
Law Director?
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually do have a few items of good news to share with the council this evening. I had a first in my law directing career the other day. I got a envelope in the mail and I opened it, and inside was the biggest check that I've ever personally handled before. It was a check for $134,400, and while I did give some brief thought to maybe skipping town with that, I instead took that over to Auditor Heck's office for deposit. This, of course, was the tap fees for the former place. And so, since we had won that case, and so that has been paid and should be in city coffers as we speak. I would also like to report that the 4th District Court of Appeals has upheld the City of Athens ordinance pertaining to landlord-tenant forms. As you know, when I came into office and made it a priority to begin enforcement of this law, as was council's request, and so it's been kind of a long journey that we've had through court challenges and appeals, and it appears that we have now I don't want to say we've necessarily reached the end of the road, but we've certainly reached a milestone in that road, and that the Court of Appeals has upheld our ordinance on that. Finally, we had our annual filing with the auditors that the auditor's office has to collect for the state auditors, which is basically a list of all pending actions against the City of Athens. Now, this can include a civil lawsuit or various actions with boards and commissions or just things of that nature, and I'm very pleased to report that as of now we only have 2 cases pending against the City of Athens. Now, to compare this to when this administration came into office in 2008, there were 11. That number has gone down every year to be at 2, and this is a real credit both to this council and to the Paul Weil administration, which has made it a priority to reach out in a proactive way to people that have problems with the city, to try to solve these up front before we get to the lawyers involved, and this saves taxpayers a lot of money in the long run, and I really do have to give a lot of credit to the mayor and to Paula Mosley for that. That said, I guess the one thing I would add to that is that, believe it or not, sometimes people that are not happy with the city will come to the administration and will say, you give us things exactly the way we want them, or we're going to sue you, or we're going to try to damage you politically. And this administration under Paul Weil's leadership has basically said that we do not respond to those kinds of threats. We respond to the law, and we will defend the taxpayers of this city regardless of what threats are made. And so I guess I just wanted to say thank you to this council and to the administration for having set that proper tone. And I think by any objective measure, 2 cases pending against the city is some pretty good progress. So thank you, Mr. President.
I don't think in 22 years of hanging out in that room that I've ever known of that number to be at that level. So congratulations to all. Questions, comments for the Law Director? Thank you, Pat. On to ordinances for second reading. Ordinance 4811 is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of a new dump truck for the Public Works Department. Ordinance 4911 is an ordinance amending the Athens City Code Title III Administrative Provisions to add Chapter 3.11 Domestic Registry. Ordinance 5011 is an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title 13 General Offenses to add Chapter 13.02.07 Intimidation. Ordinance 5111 is an ordinance closing a portion of Court, Washington, and State Streets from 7 a.m. on Saturday, July 16th to 1 a.m. on Sunday, July 17th, 2011 for a family music festival, Boogie on the Bricks, and Ohio Brew Week, suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code Title 13, Section 130410, unnecessary noise in the downtown area, and Title 7, Section 70526B1, city garage metered parking rates and regulations and declaring an emergency. Member Butler.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to move to suspend the rules at this moment.
Second.
Thank you. The reason for suspension, Mr. President, is in order to submit the permit to the state requesting the engagement in alcohol sales. The state requires at least 30 days in advance. The ordinance traditionally is accompanied with the permit to reflect the city's authorization of this event.
Further discussion on suspension of the rules only. All those in favor of suspending the rules?
Aye.
Opposed? The rules are suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this moment, I'd like to move to adopt the ordinance 5111.
Second.
Thank you. This ordinance, as noted, is the annual Boogie on the Bricks and Ohio Brew Week. The subsections of this include closing Washington Court Street, Washington State Street to vehicular traffic, as well as a ban on parking, notably the suspension on unnecessary noise, and then we also are looking at free parking in the parking garage. Again, this is an annual event that has been taking place for a number of years now, and seems to be fairly family-filled.
Further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance has been adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Ordinance 5211 is an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title 5 Public Utilities to add Chapter 5.07 Stormwater Regulations. Ordinance 5311 is an ordinance amending Ordinance 02709 to increase sewer rates in accordance with the Athens City Code. Ordinance 5411 is an ordinance amending ordinances 12310 and Athens City Code Title 5 Water and Sewer Regulations. Ordinance 5511 is an ordinance providing for the issuance of $750,000 of notes by the City of Athens, Ohio, in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying part of the cost of acquiring and constructing improvements to East State Street and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 5611 is an ordinance amending Athens City Zoning Code Title 23 to include sweepstakes, internet cafe business uses. Now on to ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 5711 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into contracts for construction of the Circle Drive access road.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Member Nisley.
This particular ordinance will be for $475,000 that will cover the costs for the construction of this access road. And $400,000 of this is funded with an Appalachian Regional Commission grant, and the remaining $75,000 will be taken from the permissive wheel tax fund.
Other comments? Mayor Weil.
This will be the second ARC grant we've got for access road construction. Of course, the first one, if you remember, was in the Holzer Clinic area. And again, this is a policy to try getting a better traffic control on some of the major arterial roads, including State Street as well as Columbus Road. So the idea is to get this so we don't have too many openings and curb cuts.
Other comments? Yes.
I would like to add that at the next reading, the second reading, we will be asking for suspension of the rules.
Ordinance 5811 is an ordinance declaring the fire ladder truck no longer needed for a municipal purpose. Again, Member Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. This particular ordinance will allow the city to dispose of our 1990 ladder truck, which we are replacing with a new truck that is on order and hopefully will be delivered to the city, we're hoping, by the end of the year.
Any other comments? Ordinance 5911 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into a contract with Time Warner Cable and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President.
Member Sands.
At this time, I'd like to ask that we consider ordinance 5911 under suspension of the rules.
Second.
The suspension is because this is a contract which deals with police and fire transmissions via the internet that we need to enter into this contract as soon as possible.
system, or is this?
Other comments on suspension only? All those in favor of suspending the rules?
Aye.
Opposed? The rules are suspended.
Mr. President, I move adoption of ordinance 5911.
Second.
Let me just say that this is a contract, a 5-year contract with Time Warner, $6,000 annually. We're going to ask for appropriation of $4,000 because this contract is beginning into the first year. And again, this is to ensure that crucial fire and police applications have required bandwidth to operate and communicate in a safe manner.
Other comments? Mayor Weil.
This provides a certain amount of redundancy for our systems that need to be secure, essentially.
Other comments? All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 5911?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 6011 is an ordinance amending the 2011 appropriation ordinance. Member Sands.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask that we consider ordinance 6011 under suspension of the rules.
Second.
This ordinance, there are several things happening in section 1, and one of those involves an appropriation for some HVAC work, which is happening, needs to be happening as soon as possible.
Other comments? All those in favor of suspending the rules on ordinance 6011?
Aye.
Opposed? The rules are suspended.
Again, let me just, Mr. President, I move that we adopt ordinance 6011.
Second.
Let me just explain what section 1 is asking. $1,000 to the Cable Access Fund for rebranding of the Athens Community Television from Channel 23 to Channel 9. If you watch Athens City Council on Channel 23, it will be soon switched over to Channel 9.
Actually, it already has.
It has been?
We went from 15 to 5, 23 went to 9. So both
So
our
that's already
channels.
happened.
Yes, but it,
See?
You don't watch this very often, do you, Member Sands?
But they haven't received the funds that,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Time Warner is actually...
So what do they pay for it with, a credit card?
No, they just dipped into their budget,
Okay.
made a mess out of it.
Time Warner is actually appropriate, giving us money, $2,000 to pay for that move. And this is appropriating $1,000 for the Athens Community Television part, ACT, which Athens City Council is on. Also, $15,000 to Recreation Fund for pool supplies, chemicals for the pool. Usually we take care of this ordinance earlier in the year, but somehow it slipped through, and so we need to, the pool is open, I think most of us don't have noticed. And $9,139 to Athens City Enhancement Fund. This is appropriating some money that was raised by Athens Uptown Business Association to place some benches throughout the Court Street area. And AUBA gave the money to the city, so it goes into the general fund, and then we need to appropriate it. And finally, $25,000 to Capital Improvements Fund 580 for replacement of the air conditioning system in the code building. We talked about this earlier. It was going to be part of our precision ordinance,
Okay, if you want.
but we decided it could be done less expensively, but we never got around to it, and the HVAC system busted, and this hasn't been working all last week. Is it up now?
it's up at this time, but there's, I mean, no guarantee. We need to get this work done.
Okay. So you could just kind of repair it.
Before it really gets hot.
So this is the amount that we talked about that the system would cost us anyway, $25,000, but now we need to do it.
Further comments on ordinance 60? All those in favor of adoption of the ordinance?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance has been adopted. We move on to announcements and other
Go with the
business.
95 if you
Anyone
want.
want to ask for a mini meeting next week? Sherry?
I'd like to ask for a committee meeting, and also I would like for people to know that the Safety Committee will be discussing the noise ordinance next week.
Where angels fear to tread. Okay. Any other announcements or other business?
I'm sure we'll need a finance and personnel.
Well, that comes as a shock to me. I just cannot imagine that happening. On to an opportunity for citizens to speak on any legislative items or any city services that we did not cover on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak before council tonight? Such a nice group of people and nobody wants to talk to us. Okay. The next item on our agenda is an executive session, and this is the law director is requested to discuss with council maybe the two items of pending litigation that is before the city and some labor negotiations that are going on. So in order to have an executive session, we will ask to move in and who we wish to have there. Yeah, Lisa.
I move that we move into executive session with all council members and
The mayor?
executive members now, Kathy Heck, the mayor, and Paula Moser.
And Lisa Eliason.
Oh, and Lisa
because
Eliason.
some of the things that are on the agenda,
And law director.
yeah, some of the items that are on the agenda, Ms. Eliason has been most
That's the
involved
ones with
with.
the detailed plans for the gas line.
So,
You can
I-
make all them on us. The blue ones are the existing
Hey.
lines, and the reds are the new ones. I didn't know that.
Let's take about 10 minutes. It's about 10 till right now for anyone to have any questions of their council members. And at 8 o'clock, I'll ask that the room be cleared and that we go into executive session. Thank you.